Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr, and you are listening to Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for needlework artists. Our artist this week from Virtuoso Adventures is Rachel Wright. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here, Gary.
Oh, this was fun. I was saying to you before we started recording, normally when we interview people, you fit into a category. You're a needle pointer, you're an embroiderer, a cross stitcher, or whatever. I researched you. I spent a lot of time researching you. I read a lot of your blog, and I couldn't get you into a category because you don't fit in a category. And
No.
it was so much fun. But it was the quote where you said, you described yourself as, I tell stories and stitch.
Yeah.
And then everything that I had been trying to piece together came together, because I didn't find that till later on in my research. I tell stories and stitch, and okay, now I understand what you're doing, because you really do. Your main work is stories. It's really nice. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, and history. So tell about all of that, because you go way back in history for a lot of this stuff. Way back.
Yes. I'm actually coming further forward in history as I go, but this all started with the Egyptian stuff. And that started about 35 years ago when I read a book called Nefertiti Lived Here by a lady who was secretary to a dig at Amarna in Egypt in the 1920s. And she was working for a learned society as a secretary to pay her way through night school studying sculpture. So when she was in Egypt, she was looking at everything with the imaginative eye of a romantic and an artist. And for my money, she was both. And she wrote such an enchanting book that I felt I had to respond in some way. And I couldn't work out how. I just thought something, embroidery.
Yeah.
That was as far as I got.
Okay.
And then about a decade later, I was helping my cousin to go through the family home. Our great aunts had recently died, and she'd inherited the house. She had to inventory it, distribute things around the family. You
that
can
process.
imagine.
That process.
That
yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And the great aunt's father had moved into that house with his young family in 1931, and they hadn't left.
Oh.
And this was in the early 2000s, so you can imagine.
Oh my!
Oh boy! So we did. We were virtuous. We worked really hard, but you simply cannot do something like that without time off.
Yeah.
And there was a point at which we were scrambling through a drawer, and we pulled out a resin representation of one of Tutankhamun's bangles, which obviously one of the great aunts had bought at the exhibition in 1976. I think it would have been in London.
Okay.
I vaguely remember that there was a fuss about it, but I was too young really to be interested.
Yeah.
But anyway, what it looked like on the wrist of the great aunt, I mean, I am not big, and they were both of them tiny compared with me. So it must have really weighed them down, which may explain why it was at the back of a drawer.
Right.
But we fished it out and looked at it, and I said, that actually reminds me of something I'm trying to work out, an embroidery. And my cousin she has a really good visual imagination, and she thinks very clearly. So she's very good at asking the questions that help you think.
Okay.
By the end of that weekend, I had the basic structure of what became Dreams of Amarna settled in my head.
All out of that bracelet.
All out of that bracelet. And then she commissioned me to do an embroidery showing our mutual ancestors last ship that he retired from as captain in 1938.
Oh.
So that delayed me starting by about a year.
Then because that's something we were going to talk about later, but let's talk about it now. Your book, Dreams of Amarna, Amarna,
Yes.
Amarna. So that seed was planted way back then.
Yes, and it was going to be 2 embroidered panels which would go on either side of the fireplace in our dining room.
Mm-hmm.
It got a bit out of hand.
Yeah, from 2 embroidered panels to a book. Yeah, that's out of hand. Yes.
That's seriously out of hand, even by my standards. That's ridiculous. Obviously, by the time 25 years had passed and I'd done 27 embroideries, some of them to go on these 2 panels. So it's not 27 individual pieces. It's 27 individual pieces, some of which combine onto these 2 panels. But there's still quite a lot left over, and 1 or 2 that I hadn't thought of at the time, and they were really interesting ideas, and there was no way I wasn't going to do them.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
And of course, by the time they're done, those bits of wall space, they have bookshelves on them now.
Okay.
So these wretched embroideries aren't even on the wall.
Oh, that's special. Yeah. So what is it about Egypt, though? Because to do a book focused on a particular period in Egyptian culture,
and a very, very short period. If
yes.
You know,
because I have to say to you, you also sent me down that rabbit hole of researching what is this period in Egyptian culture, and then
it lasts about 25 years in 3,000 or 4,000. Yes.
Yeah. What is it about that? Why lock in there?
That's the period of the excavation in the original book that provided the inspiration. And in actual fact, although the embroidery is largely of Egyptian things and ancient Egyptian things, what it developed as over the years that I did it was not so much a response to ancient Egypt, but a response to the combination and the legacy of collaboration, of craftsmanship, of work that came not just from the ancient Egyptians, but from all the people afterwards who've been entranced by Egypt and have studied it. Even down to the laborers who helped do the actual digging.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in Egypt today, they probably don't employ children as they would have done in the 20s. But if you're somewhere really sandy, the way you move the spoil away is baskets.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take a digger,
right.
Because frankly, engines don't like all that sand.
Right.
So if you're digging somewhere really sandy, what you tend to do is you do it the old school way. You get lots and lots of people, and they're passing baskets from hand to hand to hand. So even though my embroidery refers to a dig that was happening 20 years ago, to a degree, it is still crediting diggers in Egypt today. And as it developed, I'm sure you imagine, you hear about ancient Egypt and you imagine that everything I did was going to be gold. Because we all think about the death mask of Tutankhamun, we think about the bangles, we think about gold sandals, gold and ivory and gems everywhere. We think of that famous photograph that Harry Burton took in Tutankhamun's tomb, which is just a sort of ancient junk shop almost.
Yeah.
Everything on top and nothing handy, as my grandmother used to say, and everything glinting with gold. And more as I was doing it, I was finding I was interested in the people who were doing it.
Hmm.
So I did one little stump work applique of some workmen carrying a packing case onto the felucca to take everything back to Cairo. I ended up doing loads of watercolors of the workmen. I was doing embroideries of things which were not gold. I
Hmm.
did a lot of gold, you can't not, and it was interesting working out how to represent something made of solid gold
Yeah.
using silk and metal threads, or even silk and not metal threads. This is all silk
Yeah.
um, on a cashmere shawl,
Hmm.
and all of the embroidery here is silk threads, even the gold,
Yeah.
if you
Uh-huh.
like.
Yeah.
Um, so it expanded, if you like, out of um, the narrow focus of 25 years of Akhenaten's rule and the innovations in culture that he produced, the innovations in draftsmanship, in the artistic sensibility that are quite strictly confined to the very last years of Amenhotep III's reign and on into Akhenaten's. And then it sort of expanded out of there. Um, I've been very strict with myself not to do anything that Mary Chubb, who wrote the book that inspired me, wouldn't have known about.
Hmm.
So I have spent 25 years trying to research ancient Egypt without learning about modern discoveries.
Okay.
And that's been really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I haven't entirely succeeded, but at least as far as the book is concerned, I've tried to keep what I know based on modern discoveries out of the book.
Yeah.
The book is based around Mary Chubb and her book and the stories that come out of the stories she told.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now, is the book? I mean, it's a project book, right? Is it designed to be
It,
a project book, or is it also a story?
um, it's not a project book in the sense that I'm expecting anyone to do what I've done.
Okay.
Um, I don't see why they would want to be honest. What I would like them to do is see from my book the way that I approach tackling a big open ended project that just grew,
Mm.
and how it developed and how I think about designing. Because there are loads of books that tell you if you put this stitch here and this stitch here and this stitch here, you'll get what I've just done.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's very little for the embroiderer who says, well, that's all very well, but I can do that.
Hmm.
I want to think out my own designs. Where do I start?
Yeah.
And I I'm lucky. I just sort of dive in and I get there in the end.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of iteration. So all the designs I'm working on now are very iterative. I finally get there after lots and lots of redrawing and redrawing and thinking and sometimes stitching and thinking, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Take it out, cast that bit of cloth aside, start again.
Hmm.
Um,
Now
so,
that was what that comes through in all of your blog postings. Is
mm,
there's very much a process, but it's, at least in my reading, not a rigid process. You give yourself
no,
lots of latitude as you develop, so that
yes,
you're not forced to meet some predetermined goal.
yes. I have learnt And actually, it's only crystallized quite recently as I've been finishing the book, as I was doing a talk about this sort of thing for the Guild earlier in the year. Um, it's only recently occurred to me that I actually cannot design a piece all the way from um, blank piece of paper to the thing that I will stitch.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't do it. If I try to do that, I never start the embroidery.
Oh, okay.
So the piece that the really big project, which I suppose you could say is the next step forward in time from Akhenaten and Nefertiti, which is the vision of Placidus. And Placidus is that's based on an Elizabeth Goudge novel. And that novel, in turn, is based on Pisanello's vision of St. Eustace. And apparently, Eustace went by the name Placidus before he converted, and he was 2nd century Roman.
Mm-hmm.
So I have shot forward from about 3000 BC to 200 AD. But seeing as how it's based on a 14th century embroidery, I am not considering myself bound to do Placidus as a Roman. I think I'll do him as a gorgeous 14th century courtier with,
Oh.
Gold brocade and whatever else I can think of, or Niue maybe for his cape.
Yeah.
I haven't got that far yet. I'm still doing the little animals around the edge.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go look at that project, because I was fascinated by that. This Placidus. There's a painting. Is it a painting that is driving this thing?
Yes.
And what you're not replicating that painting,
No,
are
no,
you?
no.
This is
So what I am trying to do is, if you look at the Pisanello, it's in the National Gallery. There are reproductions online. It's a really weird picture. It's a really, really weird picture. It looks almost as though the scene of Placidus and his dogs and his horse and the stag have been superimposed on a map of the forest, sort of. But in Elizabeth Goudge's book, not a reproduction, but a retelling of that story is found on a pantry wall by her family in the story. And it turns out that the old pub that they're taking on is actually an old pilgrim inn. And this pantry isn't a pantry, it was originally the chapel.
Oh.
And it has a fresco of this scene on the wall. But in the same way as if you look at the tapestries in the Musée de Cluny of the hunt for the unicorn, there are animals and flowers just sort of scattered in the background. Her original fresco painter has done something a little bit like that. So he's got a scene which is a scene in the local wood, and he's got his Placidus and he's got his stag and the hunting dogs and all of that. But there are bunnies peeping out of the foliage of some of the trees, or there's a badger, rear end only, going down into a holt, which is actually another gap in the trees. So I was rereading this book as we were redesigning our bedroom, and we painted it a really dark green because I like a dark room at night. And I was looking at the big space above the bed and thinking, we don't have anything that'll fill that nicely that will go with this color of wall. I sent an opportunity. And so now I find myself trying to plan an embroidery which, when it is finished, is going to be 4 feet by 5, which is not small.
No.
This is why I so often use slips, because then you can work on something that size.
Right, exactly.
All you need to do is lots and lots of that size.
Right.
And then you have your huge piece.
Right. So okay,
which
so
is,
that's where this ultimately is headed, is the ceiling of the
yes,
bedroom. Huge.
the back wall. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had a sense as I was going through that this was going to be a monstrous piece.
Well, for a domestic setting, five
Yeah.
foot by 4 is pretty big.
Yeah. That's big. That's big. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because there's so many blog posts about making each of the individual animals
Mm.
and just interpreting them and how they're going to appear. So all right, now
Yes.
that
So
comes together. See.
that begins
Okay.
to make sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is an opportunity to use almost every technique in the book, because Placidus is going to be richly dressed. The forest in the background can be quite vague, so I could maybe use felting for that, needle
Mm-hmm.
felting.
Yeah.
Um, and I haven't quite settled on the border. There may be a border. And one early thought was that since this is a conversion story, I would put the symbols of the evangelists in each corner,
Uh,
and then either have some sort of acanthus thing. Seemed a bit dull, rather repetitive. So maybe what I do is have the animals that don't fit in the forest scene around the edge. So we
mm,
can have maybe a pike swimming along the bottom and the kingfisher at one side and the woodpecker in the forest, and dragonflies and butterflies and birds at the top.
yeah.
And then some rendition of the symbols of the evangelists, but this has not crystallized in my head yet.
Yeah.
It will be years before it does.
But by doing slips, you can move the pieces around.
Yes,
Once it,
and
yeah.
create something that pleases me, and even not worry too much if I don't, in the end, show all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this stage, I don't know. I may find that, for example, there's a little fox sitting looking out of the picture at you. And he may end up with almost just his little mask peering through a bit of forest.
Yeah.
But because I have him entire, I won't be lost where the floor is for
Right.
him.
Uh-huh.
And I can make the things going over him make more sense, because I'm not trying to cover a bit of fabric I haven't stitched.
Right.
He's all there, so I can leave bits showing and he will still show through. He will still make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
it does mean that you do a lot which won't necessarily be seen.
well, yeah. Yeah. With this approach, I can see that happening. How is it
Yes.
that you come to this being your art form? Because it's clear that you have some painting skills and some illustration skills. Is there formal training, or are you just one of
Not
those
at
that
all.
has it? You just have it in the genes.
Yes, I think probably it's in the genes. My mother's an artist.
Oh,
My
okay.
my grandmother's great recourse was embroidery.
Ah,
But I have absolutely no formal training. When I was at school, I was told by my teachers that I couldn't draw, which was perfectly accurate, let me say. Um, I have no quarrel with their accuracy about that. The quarrel I have with them was that they didn't attempt to teach us how to draw.
now that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem.
You know, I only really started working on drawing about 7 years ago. Um, I used to keep my father company when he was bedridden, when my
Mm,
mother was teaching. When my father died, I didn't want to stop going over that day of the week because that felt too final.
mm-hmm.
So I went and joined her class.
Oh,
And one of the things that she had set up was that every class, at the beginning of every class, we would all sit down with some still life in front of us all and draw for 25 minutes.
mm-hmm.
And then date it, close the book, move on to the painting.
Mm.
Didn't show anyone. No crit, just do it.
Oh,
Every now and again she would offer suggestions of ways to approach it, thinking about negative spaces, put the shadows in first, something like that. But there was no There was no criticism. There was no going back over it again. It was you, your sketchbook, and a biro
So
or
that
a
so
fiber
that
tip.
gave you then the freedom to explore.
Yes.
Ah.
And using something like a biro or a fiber tip it gives you an unarguable line, which you can't go back and correct.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn that you have two ways of going. You look really hard, you think really hard, and you do it once. Or you think, it's going to look raggy, it's not going to matter, no one's going to see it, I'll do that one, no, that's not quite right, I'll tweak it until it's right. And you know which is the right line in there. And you've looked and looked and looked. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what drawing is all about,
Yeah.
actually.
Uh-huh.
So it was simply a case of repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing that succeeds like success. The more I did it, the more I enjoyed doing it. And the more I enjoyed doing it, the more I did it. And the more I enjoyed it and did it more, the better I got.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that strange?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
who'd have thunk? You practice, you get better.
Yep.
Um, I have no idea why our teachers didn't, for example, do something like this, because it would have given them 10, 15 minutes of quiet at the beginning of the art lesson to finish setting up whatever they wanted us to do.
Right.
It would have built a skill which is extraordinarily valuable,
Mm-hmm.
actually. It's astonishing how often, in random circumstances, a freedom with a pen turns into a useful thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it would have built a useful skill, and it wouldn't have significantly reduced the time we had for other things.
Yeah.
It seems to me an obvious thing to do, and it's something that, as far as I know, no art school, no art teacher in any school in the world ever has.
So how is it? So you have this, but then you express your art with needle and thread. What is it about that that makes you end up there, as opposed to just simply getting out oils and painting?
Needle and thread came first,
Oh, okay.
a long time first.
Okay.
I started well, my very first piece of stitching that I am aware of, I was probably preschool when I started.
Oh my.
It's not very good. Bits of it are not too bad because I didn't finish it until I was 11,
Ah, okay.
by which time I had somewhat improved. But I started embroidering as an entertainment, if you like, when I was 15 and I had O-levels to do. And everything else that I did to relax involved my parents in driving me somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Orchestra, choir,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
The usuals. Yeah.
The usual. And we were out in the country. There were about 2 buses a day. So it was not feasible to use the bus. So they had to take me if I was going to do these things.
Yeah.
Which were fun and a nice change of pace, and therefore a good thing to do in an exam year. I had to be driven. So finding something else that could be done at home seemed like a good idea. And I found an old transfer in the huge trunk of dressmaking patterns that my mum had, and a stash of old stranded cottons. And because I had acquaintance with satin stitch before and found it a most unfriendly stitch, this very conventional bunch of flowers in the thing came out with all sorts of stitches. It has trellis couching and basket weave couching and Van Dyke stitch and everything but satin and long and short.
Okay.
Uh, and it looks like nothing on earth. It's a proper dog's dinner. But it allowed me to experiment with stitches and to see that if you pick a stitch to get the effect you want, you can actually get something that works.
Mm-hmm.
You can enhance the effect of what you're doing with the texture of the stitch.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very interesting thought.
Yeah.
So as I carried on, once you get hooked on embroidery, as you know, it doesn't unhook itself from you ever.
Right. Right.
Um, there were a few years when I didn't, when I was at university, but then I came back to it. I was doing a master's degree. I was living with my parents because I couldn't get digs. So I was coming home on the train and thinking I needed half an hour to switch off. And I picked again, a transfer design from a 1930s needlewoman magazine and some lovely loom state cotton upholstery fabric, which was it hadn't been shrunk.
Oh.
So it was loose enough to take some really big, meaty threads. and I started playing with the stitches. And this Persian fantasy screen is now on our dining room wall. And some of it I look at and think, you could have done better. But a lot of it, there's an interesting choice of stitch that speaks, or of thread, which speaks to the material that I was trying to portray.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I did that, the more I thought, this is really, there's scope here. This isn't needle painting in the sense of doing something that looks like a painting but is in thread.
Yeah.
This is something where you take advantage of all of the additional facilities you have because you have texture to play with as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I started becoming interested in that, it all just opened up.
Okay.
And I have lots of things that I play with where it's becoming very detailed and very contained. And the Opus Anglicanum, for example. It's not strict Opus Anglicanum as Tanya does it.
Mm-hmm.
It is Opus Anglicanum being used to tell a story I want to tell with embellishments.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But in actual fact, the main central image in each case is fairly strict opus
Okay.
in terms of split stitch in silk and underside couched gold. There's nothing else going on there. The borders, laid and couched with trellis couching over the top and the images around the side, that's a little bit less so, but still trying to be medieval in sensibility.
Okay. So
So
you could be in a room with Tanya Berlin and not get shooed out for not following the proper.
Well, I've seen some of what Tanya does. I think she would be intrigued.
Uh-huh.
She has, in fact, commented favourably on some of what I've done.
Okay.
And if I'm really petrified and anxious, I will send her a message on Insta and say, is this allowable?
Yeah.
But it's not I'm not trying to portray something that someone of the period would do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And you know, Tanya will tell you she does things which are more or less accurate representations of something else which
Right.
already exists, and some which are her own modern take.
Yes.
So there's space for both.
Right.
Um, just so long as I don't try to con people into thinking that what I've done was done, sort of, shall we say, in the 1000s.
Right, right,
'Cause
yeah.
no.
Yeah, no, and that's what I enjoyed about her was clearly a thorough understanding and ability to execute Opus Anglicanum, but not so stuck in it that she can't have fun.
Yeah,
And boy, she has fun, and it's just
she
a hoot.
does.
It really is,
It
and you got to
you
admire
you
that.
should come over here sometime and get to see it in real life,
Yeah,
because it's fabulous stuff. It really is. I
yeah.
think I've only seen her a couple of times at shows, and she has the most wonderfully luxuriant stall with all of the embroideries pinned up around it, and you you don't know where to look first.
Oh, okay.
It's just you go in and think, okay, the where do I start? This is wonderful. Where do I start?
Yeah, yeah.
um, and can I have a magnifying glass? Because I'm sure there's something really interesting.
Yeah. She's special stuff. There's no doubt about it.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting as I listen to you talk there that as an artist, so many of us as we age, we get the ability to ask the question, what if, and to act on
Hmm.
it. We get that
Hmm.
drummed out of us by society. And,
Yeah.
and, and that did not happen to you. And I find that with a lot of artists, that willingness to just take a shot and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, the thing is, what I have found, strictly speaking, with embroidery, but with other things as well, is that um, the more you think about what you're doing and why you're doing it, the more you find that there are little details in execution, in approach, in something that s- somehow make a difference. Now, I don't know whether any of this is visible to anybody other than me,
Mm-hmm.
because when I'm thinking of these things, it's usually something that I've been working on for quite some time and I'm very focused on, and I am doing something which I believe will make a difference to the final finished result. But it might be at the level of something you don't really see.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that it's just enough to have the subliminal, ugh, brushing
Yeah,
my teeth
that.
this morning, that,
Right. Right.
um, just enough to have the subliminal effect that I need to get you to see what I want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, I don't know how often this works,
Yeah.
um, but it's something which makes the doing of things constantly engaging and constantly interesting and constantly broadening rather than narrowing.
Yeah.
Even though, to an extent, you get more skilled by narrowing, by
Mm-hmm.
concentrating. But at the same time, the more things you attempt, the more skilled you get as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's two things going on here, if you
Right.
like.
Right.
And because I've always been very much the autodidact in embroidery terms, um, I learn easily from books, which is
Mm-hmm.
a blessing,
Yes.
um, a real blessing. Uh, I will find something and think, that looks interesting. I wonder what I can do with it. And I started doing my Opus Anglicanum pieces because I had bought Tanya's first book and was absolutely entranced by what she was talking about of the effect of light on silk.
Mm-hmm.
And thought, well, I want to have a go at this. But I know me. And these days, the only time I do something that's designed by somebody else is a very small palette cleanser project between Christmas and New Year.
Uh-huh.
And this is my Twixmas palette cleanser, and it's something that I wouldn't normally do. It's um, I did a silk ostrich from Saju or someone once. I did one of Tanya's kits, the three hounds, one time. Had an absolute ball because I'd been working with gold just before that, and this was wool, and it was a absolute delight. It was a real joy. And that was where I thought, this is what I need to do. This is something I need to remember
Yeah. Yeah.
for subsequent years. So I thought, if I'm going to do Opus, I need to think of a design that I want to do rather than doing one of Tanya's.
Mm-hmm.
But use all of the she put so many fabulous instructions in, and she's got how-tos in, and even how not to, and how to recover when you've not done the thing that you should have done.
Almost more important. Almost more important than how to.
Absolutely, it's much more important, in fact, because it takes a certain level of experience and skill to be working on something that you are not familiar with, go wrong, and think, okay, I don't need to panic. I can do a thing here. I can try this.
Yeah.
And not everybody who picks up Tanya's book will necessarily have reached that level of carefree experimentation.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, so that was a really useful feature of the book. But I knew that working one of the designs wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Which is why I decided to have a go at William Marshall. And I thought I was going to do exactly one, Opus Anglicanum, because I am not good at repetition.
Okay.
And I was halfway through William when I realized that this was truly entrancing, and I was going to do another 3.
Okay.
You remember what I said about projects getting completely out of hand?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I got that all the way through. That yes, yeah, it's not well defined for you. It just grows and grows.
It just grows and grows, and there comes a point when it says, "That's okay, I'm done now."
Did my research and studied what you do. And correct me if I'm wrong on this. It's the process for you.
Yes, very much so.
And you just simply don't care how long it takes. That's where you find your enjoyment.
Yes. The thing is that for me, because I don't have the whole design planned and then stitched to a plan, the whole process is a conversation.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there doing the bit that I know, waiting for the project to say, this is what you do next.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a bit reluctant. Other projects just will not shut up, which is lovely because it means you could just keep stitching.
Right.
But when I was doing Akhenaten, there were a couple of bits where I stuck. But basically, as I worked down him from his helmet to his loincloth, the only thing that I knew when I started was that I knew how I was going to do the loincloth. But equally, I knew I didn't want to work him upside down, so I was going to have to work everything else first. And I looked at it and thought, gulp. And then I started at his helmet and I worked down, and almost everything, as I came to it, said, do me like this, do me like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just, this is the thing to do. And I would do that. And as I got to the next bit, I could see what I was working with, and that gave me the next.
Okay.
So where someone who's been to an art college or the Royal School of Needlework will have been trained to prepare a plan and have the design planned right to the nth degree, perhaps.
Yeah.
I didn't have that training, and I have worked it all out very painfully sometimes for myself.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine
And
that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so I just have to work carefully and wait for the instructions from the piece as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's remarkable how well that works,
Yeah. Well,
actually.
and I won't say this right. Is it Athelflaed?
Athel, Athelflaed, yes.
Athelflaed. That piece where it's woman on a horse and again
Mm,
getting the skirts right and getting them to hang right, and it seemed to me like you were having a great deal of fun at a thing that would frustrate most people, trying to get that to drape right on the horse to give the look
yes.
you're after. And I just kind of got a sense that I would get frustrated, but for you it was, oh, let's try this. Maybe this will work
It,
better. And
yeah. Um,
yeah,
the Athelflaed has been a little bit more difficult than some of my other pieces. She's not quite come together as quickly as I might have hoped.
mm-hmm.
But I make it a rule that I don't unpick something until I am absolutely certain that I can't recover it from where it is,
Okay.
and moderately certain that I know what to do instead.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Because,
Yeah.
because in particular, if you think, oh no, that's dreadful, and rip it out, you don't have what didn't work before you to remind you what not to do.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can rip it out too soon when actually it would have worked if you just let it settle.
Yeah.
I've had pieces of embroidery where that's been the case. I've looked at it and thought, not sure about you, but I can't think of a better thing to do, so I'll just leave that. I'll carry on. If it finishes and the whole thing's rebalanced once I've got it finished, good.
Yeah.
If not, I will have more context that will help me to find what
Uh-huh.
I need to do to go
Uh-huh.
through. And because so much of it is about context,
Yeah.
um, that's the thing to rely on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was intrigued because your main work, and then we see these counted canvas or canvas projects
Hmm.
thrown in.
Just
I
throw
mean,
that in there.
to someone coming in from out, from the cold, uh, how did these fit into your overall effort? And we were talking before we started recording. That's your release. That's your
Yes,
yeah.
it's time off, but doing something. Um, I actually enjoy canvas work,
Mm-hmm.
um, but for some reason, it very rarely finds its way into my storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, um, but once I started trying to tell stories in stitch, I found that it almost went like that, separated. Um, trying to remember that people aren't necessarily going to see this.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, so the canvas work went one way, and the storytelling went another way, and not quite never the twain shall meet. I one of these days, who knows?
Right. Right.
Um, but I think there's something about the counted element of it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. Um, or maybe I just haven't found the story that I need to tell in canvas work yet.
Yeah, because it's interesting to me because normally someone who does the kind of does embroidery work really of any kind, but certainly what you do, the last thing we would see them do is counted canvas work. I mean, absolutely the last thing because
Yeah.
it's so defined in where the needle goes and
Hmm.
how you execute the stitches. There's no freedom
Yeah.
because like I do more counted work, very little embroidery work, but I always remember if I sit down to do embroidery work, the wait, I can put the needle wherever I want it. That
Yes,
sensation, and
sudden,
then
sudden
okay, how do
freedom.
I? Right, but also for someone who is always counting, how do I deal with that? Uh,
Yes,
because that's like, whoa,
yes,
wait a minute, I need somebody
yeah,
to confine me here, and
yes.
yeah,
There's a reason why in the days of the Needlecraft magazine in the 80s, every 2 or 3 episodes there would be a letter from somebody saying that they'd gone from counted work to a painted canvas, and the color went across a Penelope canvas with
uh,
four threads crossing,
right,
and the color went across. And which color did they use? And that's because if you're used to doing something which is gridded,
right, right.
you expect it to stay gridded, for goodness sake.
That's right. Yeah, that's what it's there
Um,
for. Yep.
that dash it all. Um, Printing wasn't good enough to be that accurate
Right.
in those days. Printing on canvas, you wouldn't even think of attempting it. You could probably do it now with an inkjet printer
Yes.
if you were sufficiently pernickety about how your canvas was set up. You could probably do it now, but it wasn't possible then. And they used to. There were frequent letters from people saying this is making me really anxious. What do I do? Um, and it boils down to whatever looks best.
Mm-hmm.
And every 2 or 3 months, you would see the editor trying to find a different way of saying you do what looks best,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's this thing of learning things that the first time you hear something, it doesn't all go in.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't a failure on your part as the student. It isn't really a failure on the part of the teacher. It's just the way humans are.
Yeah.
And you need to sort of go around a few times and pick up more each time. So yes, I can absolutely see that the more accustomed you are to the grid, the more terrifying
Right. Right.
the freedom becomes. Um, I think I started with surface embroidery.
Yeah.
So canvas work is restful,
Yeah.
almost.
Well,
Uh,
going the reverse,
mm,
yeah, because I'm sure from your perspective, canvas work, it takes the thinking out of it in many
mm.
ways because you don't have a choice. It has to go in this hole, and uh, yeah, so it changes
And
the
what
game.
you are, yes, what you're rejoicing in that case, is the pattern that you're making.
Yes.
And the pattern works better when it's precise. So you do that.
Right.
Um, Precision isn't something that I'm all that keen on as a general rule. I'm an impressionist.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I am.
Yeah.
Uh, but there is something very pleasing when you're doing a piece of canvas work and you're getting the patterns to knit together nicely, and it's creating a nice balanced effect. And that's just very pleasing.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
it makes a pleasant change. It's a change of perspective. It's a change of focus. It's a change of scale. And you start needing those.
Yeah.
I think I said before we were recording, I've come to the conclusion that at most I can work on Athelflaed for about an hour and a half a day.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then I need to get up and go for a smart walk in the village. Um, because everything's creaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything's got confined even down to the fingers, and you need to go out and do something entirely different on a
Right.
bigger scale.
Move the blood. Yep. Move the blood and
Yeah,
muscles. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. When you do projects just come to you, or do you have a kind of a mental list of all right, I want to do this one next, and I want to do this one next, or do you just let it just end up in your head from whatever source?
Mhm. It's a bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working on William Marshall, the Opus Anglicanum,
Mm-hmm.
who was going to be a solo, I was going to do exactly one. and that's turned out not to be the case. Um,
There's a theme here, but I'm going to let that go. I'm just going to let it go.
yeah. Well, you've been reading my blog. You've seen this
Yeah.
theme
Yeah,
grow.
I have.
um, so I'd started with William for complicated reasons we don't need to go into. And William Marshall was quite a guy. He is the first non-saint, non-royal of whom there is a biography written in English. He managed to serve 5 Plantagenet monarchs. He led his last cavalry charge at the age of 70, and he still died in his bed. He was a truly remarkable fellow. And since I had started, but he's not much known about now. My mother learnt about him in school. I didn't.
Oh.
I hadn't even heard of him until much later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, maybe what I want to do is give William some companions who are equally people who had an influence in the medieval, but who are maybe more obscure now. And I don't know if you read Kipling's Puck of Pook's Hill and Rewards and Fairies when you were little.
Nope, didn't get that one.
No?
Nope.
Oh, okay. One of his stories has the main characters being told about something that happened in Henry I's reign.
Mm-hmm.
And he describes Henry's court jester as a really, really remarkable character.
Uh-huh.
And he just sort of was sitting there saying, you know, pick me. So I wonder if he actually existed. And not only did Rahir exist, he founded St. Bart's Hospital in London, which is still there now.
Mm-hmm.
And he is mentioned on their website.
Uh-huh.
The Church of St. Bartholomew the Great is just round the corner, and his tomb was he was buried quietly in the 11th century. In the 15th century, they decided they wanted to honour the founder, so the tomb that I did a painting of is a 15th century tomb for an 11th, 12th century person.
Oh.
And he's probably not in there. He's probably still under the slabs somewhere else in the church. But there's this huge tomb to say, look at our founder. He was quite the guy. And then I looked at that and thought, well, that's church and state, if you like. William Marshall was a jouster and a statesman. And Rahir started as a courtier and became a cleric. I need to balance the two of them is fine, but it looks a bit unbalanced.
Uh-huh.
And I also wanted to do Julian of Norwich because I've known about her for a very long time. She is less obscure than she was. She is the first author we know of who was female to write a book in English.
Okay.
And again, if you go to Norwich, you can go to St. Julian's Church where she was an anchoress, and they will show you her cell. The whole church was almost destroyed during the war, during the bombing, because it's on the East Coast, so it was well within range. And the verger who was showing me round said, it's all the right stones, just not necessarily in the right order.
Okay.
which I thought was rather sweet of him.
Yeah.
And then I needed somebody else. And because Julian was an anchoress and effectively a cleric, I was looking for someone more in the warrior statesman sort of field.
Yeah.
But at this point, I had 2 and 1, and I think I'm going to even this up if it kills me. And actually, it didn't. It didn't take me very long at all to find Athelflaed, who was the daughter of King Alfred the Great, and she ruled the Mercians. The Mercians didn't believe in queens.
Mm.
She married the ealdorman. She was his co-ruler. When he died, she continued to rule on her own.
Oh.
But they didn't call her queen. They didn't
Oh.
have the word. They didn't approve of queens.
Oh.
But they did approve of Athelflaed. And she kept the Vikings at bay. She kept people under control here. She kept people under control there. She refortified my home city of Chester.
Oh.
Right. Okay. Athelflaed it is then. So, it grows. There's a
Yeah.
story even in how the whole thing develops. And the story that the whole four of them are telling is of a group of people whose influence reaches down to the modern day,
Uh-huh.
tenuously in some cases, less so in others. So it's maybe harder to see Athelflaed's influence now, although we are hearing more and more about her.
Mm-hmm.
She was written out of history by her brother.
Oh. Well, he's no fun.
Well, exactly. The reason we know about even as much as we do about her is because the Irish monks across the sea included what she was doing in their chronicles.
Oh. Oh, okay.
And their chronicles mentioning Athelflaed are absolutely full of superlatives. She was splendid. She was a battle maiden and a peace warrior, a peace weaver, and she was this and she was that, and she couldn't have been more splendid had if she tried. She was quite a gal.
Yeah.
And none of this do we get from Wessex,
Yeah.
from brother Edward,
Yeah,
even
well.
though she was fostering his son.
Oh, geez.
So she was guardian for Athelstan, who became the first High King of all Britain.
So he owed her, but he wrote her out of history. Okay. Nice guy. Nice
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. Well, what's that phrase they say? I'm not saying it's the patriarchy, but it's the patriarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
And they, in fairness, the whole of that period didn't really believe that women were up to doing these things, even when they had counterexamples in front of them. It's just very strange.
Yeah. Yeah. Rachel, we have to stop. I got a feeling we could go on for another hour here.
Probably. Well,
Yep.
I can always come back if you want a rematch.
Well, we may just do that. We may just do that. Okay, so your book, Dreams of Amarna, that's available from the Embroiderers Guild.
From the Embroiderers Guild, yes.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
in the UK. Yes.
Yes, and they will post worldwide.
Yeah, because
as
I have to be careful because here it's the Embroiderers Guild of America, so we have to distinguish
Yes.
between the two. So that book
Yes.
is available, and people should check that out. And then I can tell you firsthand, folks, read the blog. It's really a needlework journey and a treat. It really is fun. So.
And there's 20 years worth of archives to get lost in as well, because
Yeah.
I started blogging in about 2002.
Yeah, well, I had to stop myself. I kept going back and back. All right, enough. Stop. Yeah. So, yep.
Well, I'm
Rachel,
glad you had fun.
Oh, I did. All right. So thank you so much, Rachel. Really enjoyed it. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening, guys.